Okay, let's look at what's on WaterlooWorks. Okay, 1,102 postings for my program, not bad. Magnet forensics. What's this? Murder, terrorism, child exploitation every day? Oh my god. Oh hey look, that one's familiar. Yep, this is the one that I did last time. Let's look at the ones that are in the US. Oh damn, Apple, Bloomberg, Cloudflare. Oh my. GTS. Snowflake. X? Interesting. Now I start applying to a few co-op postings, and these first few are ones that I wrote cover letters for. I wrote around 12 cover letters in total for different jobs, but these 3 are the only ones I recorded, and it so happens that these 3 were 3 out of the 4 jobs that I got interviewed for. So either that says that cover letters work, or that also says that recording my job applications also helps somehow. Okay, let's spam these applications. We're just going to use those application packages, which just contain my resume, my transcript, and my co-op history, and then we'll just spam those because most of them don't require cover letters, and I don't want to write more cover letters anymore because they do take a little bit of time. So I'm just going to go through my shortlist and just shoot my shot. Okay, I am all done with applying to co-op postings for this round of this cycle. So the first round, first cycle, we'll see what interviews I get. I'll update you with what interviews I get and how those interviews go, and then I'll also show you what I got ranked for, what I got offers for, and what I did not get ranked for. So I just finished an interview with Tactics Studios, which is a smaller game studio started by a former Waterloo student as well, who also was at Digital Extremes for around 7 years actually, full time. But the interview did not go very well. They asked a couple of technical questions that tripped me up. They weren't ones that I was really used to. One of which was about picking a point, a random point in a circle. So you're given a circle, given a radius, and how would you pick a random point in there? And I said, so you pick a random value from 0 to the radius and pick a random angle, 0 to 360 degrees or 0 to 2 pi radians, but then that's not uniform, or it's biased towards the center of the circle. I couldn't really find intuition for what that was. I mean, it's because pi r squared area is scaled with r squared, radius squared. So that's sort of why. But intuitively, how to fix that was not really clear. Like you pick a value from 0 to square root r, or and then they also asked me a question about how I would design a system where you have a character with a bunch of attributes, and then you have status effects, buffs, and equipment that would increase stats or decrease stats or whatnot. How would you sort of create a system to do that, and like how would you store the data? And it's sort of more of an object-oriented programming, class composition sort of thing. I got really stuck up on the idea of a decorated pattern, and I wasn't very clear on the decorated pattern because I learned it maybe over a year ago, and I don't remember the details in the class composition. I wasn't really sure about how exactly that would work either. So I did pretty poorly on this interview, and I'm pretty bummed out. But then I also decided to do a recorded interview for another company called Arup, which does some built environment sustainable design work. So that's like sort of the industry, and then they work on this product called Mass Motion, which is a sort of human crowd simulation to simulate how people move in certain environments. So that's pretty cool. So I did a recorded interview for that, and it was pretty straightforward, just some typical behavioral questions, and yeah, that was it. Tomorrow is my last interview for this first cycle of WaterlooWorks postings. I only got 2 real interviews plus 1 video interview, and the one tomorrow is also sort of game dev. It's not 100% game dev, I think. It's more, there's also like VR, AR. Pro tip is to reach out to previous interns to ask about how the interview process was, what kind of questions they asked, what the format of the interview was, what the whole entire hiring process is, because sometimes it's more than one interview, and maybe what it's like to be an intern there. That's pretty helpful to know if you're maybe deciding between different internships, if you get multiple offers, but just helpful to get some background and a few hints about the interview so you can better prepare. So tomorrow is for Zmind Studios, or Zmind Studios, and I haven't done much preparation, but I asked a previous intern and they said that the interview was 2 technical questions, like LeetCode style, and pretty simple. Apart from that, not much else, but I'll see how it goes. I'll do a little bit of practice, and then I'll let you know how it goes after I do it. So I just finished my interview with Zmind Studios for sort of game development, but also other app and software development role. And I think it went quite well. The interviewer was very chill. I was pretty relaxed because we had some small talk at the start, and I think most of my responses were quite natural. I didn't prepare too much, but I did prepare a little, and the questions were somewhat challenging for the non-LeetCode style questions, and then even the LeetCode style questions were very easy, but one of the questions had an optimization that I didn't think of initially before he sort of led me to it. And I also felt like I was a little bit iffy at sometimes, making a small error in like a boundary case, but overall quite good. I'm pretty happy with it. And I also got one more interview for a role that is super good. Like it's a very far reach for me, and it's next week Tuesday, so I have 6 days to prepare. I'm not expecting much, but I think it'll be okay because I don't really have much to lose. I think I did well on this interview, so I should be somewhat safe, I think. Okay, so yesterday I got a follow-up from the company and role that I applied to, and there was a recorded interview for, and it didn't go very well. It was only 30 minutes. They actually gave a demo of their software at the start of the interview, and then they asked about, they sort of dug into my past internship at Digital Extremes, and I didn't really have very good answers for them. Just like more about the more technical aspects of what I did there, and a couple of behavioral questions as well. And I just finished the most baffling interview I've ever participated in. It was bonkers. So it was for a startup of a crypto exchange, and it's based in the US and also pays super well. So I was going into it like, I don't really have a chance. It's gonna be super competitive and I only have things to gain. So I was going in pretty positive, and then things went downhill pretty quickly. So I was in the call and the interviewer showed up 5 minutes late, and it was the CEO of the startup. He just said hi and then gave a link to a coder pad and said implement Fibonacci recursive. That one was an easy warm-up, but then he said to have it calculated at compile time rather than during runtime, using C++, using more modern C++ 20, using constant expressions, or using template, whatever programming, some I don't even remember the name, but I wasn't familiar with it, so he just told me to code up something else. You just return a lambda function of recursive, memoized Fibonacci. So I sort of did that, but before I did that, he turned off his video and mic, and I was a little bit confused. I wasn't sure I heard correctly, and I waited for him in case something happened, but then he just unmuted and said like, "Oh, have you started coding?" And I was very confused. But yeah, so I didn't really do very well on that part, and that took 20-ish minutes. I expected it to be longer because the email said 2 interviews with 2 different interviewers, 45 minutes each, back to back. But this one was only 30-ish minutes, and then there was an intermission, sort of, which was supposed to be 15 minutes, but ended up being closer to half an hour. And then the next interview showed up and said he was triple booked, and he didn't come with any questions. He just was like, "Was there anything that you didn't cover with the previous interviewer that you want to talk about? Maybe something on your resume or something about your experiences?" I was like, I don't know what to say. I'll just go through a couple of my experiences on my resume. I'll just highlight some things, and then had a couple of questions about my experience after I talked about something that was related, which was the ETH Waterloo hackathon, and just a couple of past co-ops with experience doing software development or engineering, and that was it. It lasted literally like 5 minutes, so it was so baffling. I'm still confused and shocked, to be honest. And he said, "Well, I'll hear back in the next couple of days," and I'm not expecting much at all. Nothing at all. In fact, I'm not even expecting to hear back at this point. I spent some time preparing for this interview, I was doing so many LeetCode questions. I did around 30, and I also did a little bit of research about the company, but none of that even mattered. Maybe a little bit of the LeetCode, because Fibonacci and then dynamic programming with memoization, that part was maybe slightly helpful. The odds are I'm going to get an offer for Zmind Studios, which I'd be pretty happy about, but the rest of them I have very low expectations, and that's okay. As long as I get one, then I'll be happy. Okay, so co-op rankings came out 2 days ago, and we had 1 day to put our rankings in, and the results of the 4 interviews that I had, 3 of them didn't go very well, so I didn't get ranked for 3 of them, but the one I thought I did very well on, I was expecting an offer, but I didn't get the offer. They said they ranked me very high, but even though they ranked me very high, the people who did get the offers seem to have taken them, and so I did not get matched with them. So what it's looking like is I'll be going into cycle 2. I'll probably reach out to Digital Extremes again to see if I can return, but I'm not sure if I can, because actually a lot of the other interns that were at Digital Extremes at the time that I was are planning to go back. 2 of them have already decided to go back, and another 2 are thinking of going back. One of them already reached out but hasn't heard back yet because they're not sure if they have a hiring freeze or not, and the last one has been thinking about it because she didn't get a co-op this cycle either. But I'll keep you updated and maybe come out with a new video, a part 2 for the co-op job search. And yeah, well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.